I'm upset because we didn't finish Ocarina of Time on Friday.
How far did y'all get?
We were like halfway through.
Are you just going to play it the next couple weeks as well?
No, Josh and Kristen are on the stream this Friday, which is going to be an insane time. They're going to be playing, most likely. We're not totally sure about it yet. But they're probably going to be playing like a couch co-op, like how you and Logan did. Yeah. What's it called? The hanging game with the little characters.
Fall flat?
Heave-Ho.
Heave-Ho!
Yeah, Heave-Ho was really fun.
I played that.
Mario Kart, maybe some Mario Party.
Heave-Ho is the one where you could like explosively fart yourself across the map.
That's true. You could explosively fart yourself.
Good times.
Well, I don't think you explosively fart yourself, but you explosively fart
your partner.
other people. Yeah. It's a great game. It's like a cooperative puzzle game where you have to get from one side of the map to the other, but you have to do it like by holding each other's hands.
It's
a lot more difficult than swing and make giant ropes. And
wait,
it's really fun.
Is that the game with the yarn people?
Yeah, I think we played it before.
Yeah, I played it last night.
Yeah.
But it was all right.
No.
Oh, Jacob is saying it's not the game.
Jacob looks visibly upset.
Are you thinking of...
what's the game?
Jacob looks like he's about to murder David.
He's not thinking about Little Big Planet.
Unraveled.
Oh, Unraveled, I guess.
It sounds very similar, though.
Yeah,
because the game was like you follow like
Jacob
a wisp
is getting even more angry. He's got a knife. Jacob's got a knife.
You've upset him.
Sounds like a combination of that and
Animal from the Muppet Babies.
He'll get over it.
But yeah, it looks fun. It reminds me there's this new game that's come out now where you're like a bunch of cats and you're all tied together and you all have to like get across a map, but you're like because you're all tied together. Yeah, right. Yeah. It looks really fun. It's like another one of those co-op.
Yeah,
have to solve a puzzle together kind of games.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll see. Josh and Kristen are gonna. I think it'll be fun.
That's fun. There's our plug for the. I don't know if we're recording yet or
watch
not.
Watch the Twitch stream. We're recording.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're on right now. Oh. What do you want to say to the world, Tanner?
Hello. That's it. That's all I got.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, world. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. All three of you?
Yeah. No. No, there's more than 3, Tanner.
Okay.
We regularly
there's
get
4 of us here, so that we have at least 4 listeners already.
20 and 50 views.
Doesn't mean I'm going to go listen to it, though.
Yeah. I probably won't listen to this afterwards.
Wow. David.
I actually have not listened to the podcast.
Wow.
I haven't.
David.
I've listened to like snippets of it.
Oh
so
my gosh.
when Blaine said, "Hey David, you're going to be on the podcast," I just went and I listened just to see what it was like.
Oh my
But
goodness.
that's it.
What's your assessment of the 20 seconds of it that you've heard?
Yeah.
A+ for sure.
Oh,
A+.
good.
Good. Yeah.
I feel it's
not
very,
A++.
Well, I mean, if I had listened to 30 seconds, I might have jumped to A++.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Good.
to be fair, I had only listened to about 10 minutes of one episode before Blaine asked me to come on. But then I listened to multiple whole episodes. I went back a few months and listened to all of them up to it.
Yeah. I'm good to be on.
That's the incorrect way to consume it. That's too much of us.
Is there a standout in your mind?
Oh goodness!
Standout performance.
Well, I mostly noticed like Blaine a few weeks in a row brought up the same topic. Like the Bobcat lasted like
that's true
a while.
Well, we can bring that up again.
Yeah, because I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Tanner,
I remember the ice cream controversy.
Ice cream controversy
with McDonald's.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you, Blaine.
Why do you think that McDonald's? Every time you go to McDonald's, you ask for an ice cream. What are they going to tell you?
Because their ice cream machine is broken because they are either lazy or don't clean their machine.
That's not true. The ice cream machines at McDonald's are notoriously so this one company has this huge contract with McDonald's to manufacture their ice cream machines.
And they're terrible?
Yeah, so they're not great machines, but even more importantly, they break down really frequently and the error codes on the machine are really difficult to interpret. It'll give you error 79312 and you have to know what that is and how to fix it. So it can be something as simple as the nozzle isn't quite tightened enough, but it's giving you an error code. Now you can't use it. And McDonald's can't have people on staff who service the machine. You've got to call people from the company that manufactures the machine to come and fix it.
So did Manuel tell you the story of his grandmother?
Who worked at McDonald's?
No. Who was in line. They went to go get McFlurries, and they were like, "Sorry, our ice cream machine is down." And she said, "I will sit here and let you go to Walmart or where you have to go to get us ice cream. And they said, sorry, ma'am, we'll have the ice cream right out to you.
Whoops.
And they made them McFlurries. So there was not actually an error.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that that's 100% all the time.
Right.
But apparently McDonald's is really notorious for
Interesting.
Their ice cream machines are really difficult.
And there's got to be
fix.
something going on because people describe a localized personal problem that the ice cream machines are made by the same company for all the other major places,
nationwide,
and they don't have the same problem. You can look it up. There's someone
it's like Johnson
made a
or something.
Made a program to ping the McDonald's to see if their ice cream machine was working, and it's about
It's amazing.
it's 15% of all McDonald's ice cream machines are down.
Wow.
At a given time.
Maybe they just really don't like making ice cream.
That could be it.
It's Taylor. It's Taylor, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that sounds right. Taylor.
You know who never does that? Chick-fil-A. That's why Chick-fil-A is the best.
Wow.
If you ask for ice cream, you're getting ice cream.
Dairy Queen
Except for on
too.
Sunday.
Wow. C'est la vie. So many times I've been like, hey, church is over, let's go get...
I know, right? Chick-fil-A is a big staple of a lot of my diets whenever I'm on them because their grilled chicken nuggets are great.
Yeah, they're great.
Their grilled chicken sandwich is fantastic. You can get big fruit bowls at Chick-fil-A. They're delicious.
Wow.
And so I'll be great on my diet, and then Sunday will come around. I'll be I'll just cheat. It's fine. So Chick-fil-A is the reason why I'm fat, just so people know. And I'm going to sue them for it.
But it's a staple of your diet?
Well, my healthy diet.
But that's why you're fat?
Yeah, because I'll be good on the diet, and then on Sundays I cheat. So I get off my diet, and I just don't get back
Monday
on it.
it's I've already
I cheated yesterday.
Might as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sunday's the first day of the week.
Maybe
if
you
do
shouldn't
bad on
have
that first
any
day,
fast
it affects your
food
whole
in
week.
your diet plan.
Now you're getting crazy.
And then,
Let's not get radical, Devin.
Okay.
Speaking of which, Devin, what'd you have for lunch today?
Ooh.
What did I have? McAllister's.
Ooh, all
I
right.
had a New Yorker with macaroni and cheese.
Yum.
Oh,
So at
man.
Devin's workplace, they provide lunch every day.
Yep.
Oh,
Wow.
For free.
wow.
It's fantastic.
That is
Pretty incredible.
an incredible perk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free lunch every single day. Do they always order McAllister's or so?
No,
different
it's
places?
different every day. Local restaurants, and about once a week we'll get steak day, and it'll be Longhorns
Oh
or
my
Cheddars
gosh.
or Outback or something, and you can get steak, grilled chicken, sometimes salmon. There's a place we do salmon now. I typically get the grilled chicken salads though on those days.
You're making
So
me
you can
hungry.
order, they don't just mass order something. You can order your own thing.
Yeah, it's a limited option because they try to make most
Right.
meals pretty healthy. They have tiers.
Oh, that's
for-
fascinating. It's a thing to keep you on a healthy diet.
Yeah, so they have
Wow.
tiers for price and health, and some of the cheaper ones may not be as healthy. Sometimes we get Jimmy John's, and that's not as healthy. But some of the more expensive days, you can get really healthy options. So it's limited because they have a price limit. So and I think some things you probably couldn't even order at the restaurant. I think Cheddar's meals. I've never seen the
Right,
combination we get from Cheddar's at Cheddar's as an option because they just bulk buy. So you have
Right.
limited selection. Some places have a lot more because they're cheaper, so there are a lot of different things you can get. But yeah, they try to do very limited carbs. The only time we ever get French fries is from Chick-fil-A. When we get Chick-fil-A. But yeah, so you can eat pretty healthy. It's been a really good way to do a diet because I'll eat pretty much whatever I want. Maybe not something crazy. If we have a pizza day or something like that, I'll try and not eat something super unhealthy on that day, but I'll make a smoothie in the morning and then just make sure whatever I have for dinner is healthy. Sometimes I'll just eat salads.
Well, that's disgusting. And you're making me look really bad. So
Well, it's really
Thanks.
helpful to have really good food just brought to you.
that is,
Yeah.
So I've never heard of a workplace that provided lunch specifically for the intent of keeping your employees healthy.
Yeah.
That's really where it's a pharmaceutical supply.
Test preparation sales.
Test
Taylor used to be in sales
preparation?
there. He can
Yeah.
explain it better.
So,
Oh.
What do we sell? I just do product development.
so
So I make the product. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
it's just a test prep publishing company. So they created all sorts of study guides for
Oh.
standardized
Has nothing to
exams,
do with
for
medicine?
licensure exams, for literally any test out there that you have to
SAT.
take to get a license. They have a study guide for pretty much.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
So really obscure things like
That's very cool.
helicopter pilot. or things like that.
Firefighter stuff, policeman stuff,
Yeah.
SATs.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it's really
Canadian social
That seems
studies.
like it would be.
So it's random stuff.
That seems like it would be a pretty small, like, organization business to be doing something as expensive as like providing all their employees lunch every day.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's a cool thing.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're a great company.
David, where are you working now?
LIT still.
Oh, you're still just doing school full time.
Well, I'm looking to change my job. I just applied to stuff like Ace Hardware. That's the only thing I've applied to so far. I procrastinate job applications. So,
were you working like at LIT?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually just got back from a trip
Like
for
a
LIT.
like a librarian.
No.
That would have been cool.
It's customer service mainly.
Okay.
The students call me and complain, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. and then I tried my best to fix
David's over
it.
there like, suck it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would, but I can't say that. But no, they actually just sent me to Alpine for a meeting or something. I went, I came back, and I still don't really know what we did there.
Interesting.
But
Sounds like it was totally worth it.
oh yeah, it was so much fun. But no, apparently up there,
He's mad at you.
Have y'all heard of?
Jacob is saying that you're a receptionist.
Well,
Hey man, I was a receptionist for years.
Yeah, don't denigrate receptionism.
yeah.
It was
I'm good.
great
at
job.
It. I'm good at it. But have y'all heard of the Marfa Lights?
Marfolite?
Marfa
Is that
Lights.
is that like Vegemite?
No. So
Oh.
I was wondering if y'all had heard of it because it's a really big thing in Alpine, but apparently, not very many people I've talked to have actually heard of it. It's these mysterious, unexplained lights that show up at night and they like move around.
Like the Saratoga Lights?
Like in Aliens?
No. People thought that they were aliens when they first showed up. We went. There's literally a
Saratoga
place.
Lights, by the way? Have you ever been out there?
No.
Okay, we'll talk about that after this. Continue.
Okay. Well, there's this,
Marfolites?
Yeah, Marfa
Okay.
Lights. So there's this place that we went to our first night there, and it's literally like this giant
With
like,
people you
pier.
know?
Well, it was with all the SGA people, like the student government people from different universities in
Okay.
Texas, and we went to this. It's just a giant pier
At
where
night?
people just sit there at night and look out on this plane and wait for the Marfa Lights to show up. And these people were taking it really seriously. One of the students turned on his flashlight, and the dude straight up yelled at him, and he was like, "Turn off your light! Do you know why we're here?"
Oh my god.
It was but
Did you see any
Well,
lights?
okay.
Did you see the aliens?
let me tell y'all about that. So
Okay.
the thing is, there was refineries there, right? So there's blinking
Oh,
lights.
no.
Listen. So there's blinking lights
All over the place?
Yeah. So these people, they're like, oh yeah, there's the Marfa. And the thing is, I was sitting there. I was like, "That's just the refineries, y'all." But I didn't want to. I didn't want to.
You don't wanna be that guy?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
want to squash that because all of them were like, "Oh, that's so cool." And they're like, "Look, it's moving." I'm like, "Guys, it's not moving."
That is stayed in the same spot.
Yeah,
for the
I'm
past
like, do you realize that
50 years.
that is a blinking light that has been there since we've gotten here?
So,
But
are there Marfa lights?
well, no,
or-
I've seen pictures of them, but I don't know.
Was
they,
there,
they,
like-
they look like. Have y'all
Was
seen?
there a smokestack in the
Photoshop?
background?
So there was this one time
Little green
where
man.
Yeah.
there's this guy there was a light that was moving around, and I was like, guys, look. But then it was just this guy walking around with a flashlight. So
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I have my doubts. I've got
You
my doubts.
could really mess with the crowd though.
Yeah.
You and
like,
a couple of friends go out in the fields and like
that's-
What do they
that's-
say the lights are?
No, that's the thing. People don't know. When they first showed up, people thought that they were paranormal or ghosts or something like that.
naturally.
Or
Yeah.
Can't you just like,
So
walk over
the
to
pictures
them?
that I
No.
saw, have y'all seen the movie Brave?
With the Irish girl?
The Pixar, yeah. the
Okay,
Pixar
yes.
movie. So the will
not.
Are they
wisp,
Scottish?
there's these, yeah, the blue lights in
difference.
there. If you just make them white lights, that's what they look like, and they just kind of drift around and stuff. But
Like
what?
swamp gases or
Like
something.
swamp gases. That's where like the Saratoga lights are.
Yeah.
Or
What,
weather
what
balloon.
are the Saratoga lights?
So if you go out to like Bragg Road, like if you drive past Sour Lake, there's a road out there, like all the way out there.
Mhm.
It's a dirt road. Like a 1-lane dirt road that you're supposed to drive down in the middle of the night. It's like 3 miles long. It's a long road.
Yeah.
And if you turn off all your lights, like in the middle of the road, you can see like greenish, bluish lights that like fade and glow.
Like the Northern Lights?
No,
are they just fireflies?
I haven't seen them myself. I've been out there a couple of times.
That's the thing.
You
I
want to come out
wasn't
to my
sure
house at dusk and just look at the field
look-
across the street? It's like these crazy lights. If you just stand real still.
No, I will admit.
So the way they describe them is not like fireflies, but like swamp gas. Like that's the natural explanation for them is.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know exactly how swamp gas does it, but it's like it's
Do you
chemicals.
inhale the swamp gas and then look at
start
fireflies?
Whoa!
It's something about like the chemical reaction with the atmosphere of
sure,
swamp
that
gas
makes
makes it like glow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, for a few seconds. But it's pretty spooky out there. Me and some friends went out one time, and they like dared me to like get out of the car. So I got out of the car, and I was like, walking around because it had rained. So there was this big puddle in front of us, and we were trying to gauge like, should we drive through this puddle or not? And so I said no. But while I was out there, I could hear like a dog barking, and I was like, guys, there's a dog out here, and it sounds like a big dog. And they were like, I'm sure, whatever. And so we turned around and like started going back, and sure enough, like we came within inches of like hitting this massive like pit bull that like had this like broken leash around its neck. I was like, I could have died.
I'm glad you didn't get mauled while you were outside of the vehicle.
I could have been murdered.
Yeah.
So it was terrifying. It was a scary thing.
Yeah, I will admit when I first saw them, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." But then, I thought about it for the next couple of days. I was like, "Guys, that's the refinery. There's no way that was like the refinery was right there. There's no way."
Yeah,
It's red blinking light.
Yeah, I don't know if they're just like fireflies that have been hitting the gym or something.
maybe. Never know. Where do y'all? I mean, without too much specificity, what do y'all live, Devin? Oh, in Orange. That's right.
Yes.
That like in the
Southeast
country.
Texas.
In the country.
It's not that country.
Oh, well, if you can see fireflies, I don't see fireflies in my front yard.
So there's a baseball field in my neighborhood that's abandoned, and that's where you see the fireflies. It's
That
right
sounds
across the street
spooky.
from my house.
Nice.
You also see bats. It's really cool right at dusk where you can still kind of see stuff. That's when the fireflies come out and the bats.
Yeah.
And you can see the
Because
bats
the
coming
bats
and
are eating the fireflies. Nice.
Yeah,
Right.
it's really
The
cool.
circle of life.
We would at our camp. There's this. We have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and you would be swimming in it. We would do like night swims sometimes. So you'd be swimming in it like in one end, like you'd have like 3 or 4 people in like the shallow end or something, and in the deep end you would hear like splashes. And if you watched, like you could watch bats swoop down and like get a drink and like fly off.
That's really cool.
I always was trying to
Did they
tell
like
them.
chlorinated water?
Yeah, it's chlorinated bats. You can't drink it, but they never listened to me. So
Those bats.
yeah, dumb bats.
In my high school, there were a lot of bats. There are a lot of bats in Orange, and we would get bat infestations.
Oh gosh.
So we would like, all right, kids, everybody go to the sanctuary because it was a private school, so it was a church. So go to the sanctuary, and then like
We're dealing with bats.
utility guys would come out with like bats or like
Oh
tennis
my
rackets or
gosh.
something,
Reminds me
or
of
just trash bags and try and catch the bats.
I wonder what kind of bats do we have locally? They're not like vampire bats,
probably not.
Fruit bats, probably.
Yeah.
but they eat bugs.
They're the bug eating bats.
Bug bats.
Just
Bug
the
bats.
common
The common bug bat.
Baseball bat.
Yeah.
common bug bat.
That
Reminds me of the like Office episode with Meredith getting
Oh my
a bat
gosh.
trapped on her head with
Dwight traps it on her head.
with a plastic bag.
Be still,
It's
woman.
amazing. It's
Jim convinces Dwight that he's turned into a vampire because the bat bit him.
right.
No, I think my favorite, besides the whole vampire prank, I think my favorite part of that episode is when Kevin shuts the bat into the workroom and he's just like, I am a hero.
Creed says he's going to kill it, and Mindy Kelly says, Creed, you can't kill it. It's a living thing with babies in a family. And so Creed opens the door and it flies out. She says, kill it. It's a great show, The
It is a
Office.
good
If you
show.
haven't watched it, you
how
should
many-
watch it.
I've seen it like
Have you seen the
ungodly amount of
giant
times.
Indonesian fruit bats
No.
that are like 6 feet tall?
Mm-mm.
Like, and they hang from like buildings.
Terrifying.
Yeah. They're enormous.
Yeah.
Like
It's a dinosaur. Right?
Where do they originate from?
Their face it looks like a big fox.
Indonesia?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that part.
It's like a modern day pterodactyl or something.
They're all throughout like the
gargoyle.
Pacific Islands, and
Wow.
so actually bats are supposed to be able to get a lot bigger than they are right now. But the reason why they don't get as big as like pterodactyls got is because pterosaurs technically, you're not supposed to call them
Okay.
pterodactyls.
All right.
The reason why they didn't get as big as pterosaurs is because pterosaurs had hollow bones, and bats don't. They have real thin bones, but they're
Right.
mammals, and so they have
Right.
solid bones.
Yeah. Makes it harder
But
to
even
fly.
with solid bones, bats are supposed to be able to get bigger than they are.
Wow.
Like they can still support themselves with flight if they were a little bit bigger. But that species of bat is the biggest species.
Yeah.
Let me see what it was called.
So I went to this place called Mammoth Caves. National Park in Kentucky, and we got to go on some tours of some giant. It's a giant cave system.
Yeah.
And we went down into one, and stumbled upon like hundreds, maybe thousands even of bats, and there's like, oh man, it was incredible. They're all just hanging there at the mouth of a cave, and we were like,
Did you get pooped on?
luckily no,
Okay. Good.
but there was poop everywhere. It was like, golly, like,
Could have made yourself some eyeliner.
yeah, right. No thanks.
Yeah.
This is a picture of the golden crowned flying fox, is what they call it.
Yeah, if I saw this, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go home now.
Yeah. So you at home
I don't like
can
Great
go
for
look it up.
audio
An audio
format.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go look
Well,
out the
that's
golden
pretty
crowned flying fox. It's an enormous bat, and it
it's
will
terrifying.
not murder you. They're actually incredibly docile because they eat fruit.
It looks like something out of a horror movie, though.
It does.
It really does.
Yeah.
It looks like
It just straight up looks like a giant vampire man.
Yeah.
Have you seen? we can't talk about this. This is too stupid.
It looks
But,
like a gargoyle or something.
It does look like a gargoyle.
Yeah.
There's a show, Lost Tapes. Terrifying. That was in Animal Planet's phase where they just like made stuff up. Animal Planet and Discovery Channel.
Just
were you all
made
there
stuff
for-
up?
Yeah. Did you ever see that Mermaids documentary?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just literally
I don't
like
know.
Just made it
it's intentionally meant to be like a mockumentary, like a
No,
fake
okay,
documentary.
okay.
Like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting? But they don't make that super clear. And like throughout the whole thing, it's like, oh, the government is covering up the fact that there's mermaids in the ocean, and they could have evolved from like swimming apes or something. And it's this crazy thing.
Yeah.
But it was on the Discovery Channel, and like people like have sued them. Like there are still
My
conspiracy
gosh.
theorists who
Believe that's real?
that mermaids are real
Wow.
because of like this documentary.
It's
Oh.
like
Now, have
it
y'all
used to be about
seen-
History Channel.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now it's about aliens.
Yeah, right.
But the Lost Tapes was a show on Animal Planet, and on it they did like vampires. The whole thing was meant to explore cryptids, but like in like a found footage style format.
Wow.
And one of the episodes was about vampires, and the vampires that they go with are not like blah 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 like Dracula vampires. They're like man bat vampires, and they scared me as a child. Like I had literal nightmares. It's very scary. But yeah.
Yeah, no, but there's have y'all seen that show on Netflix, Alien Worlds? It's very similar where they make it like a documentary. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be real, but it's like if aliens existed, what would they actually,
like it's hypothetical, like alien biology and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I tried to watch it, but I was like, well, what's the point? They're just making this stuff up.
Yeah. It's just glorified fan fiction.
Is that like that show you were watching that one day while someone was on the Twitch and it was about these people that went into the houses and were like looking for ghosts and stuff?
No, that was probably what's it called?
That was
Ghost Hunters.
That was
Ghost
one
Hunters.
of Blaine's home videos.
Yeah,
That was him.
not Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, I think is what it's called. There's one of these shows, like I like watching like a lot of those paranormally dumb shows because one, the aspect of like found footage is really scary to me. Like there's something like about it that gives it this real interesting authenticity.
Right.
Like Blair Witch Project is like one of the coolest movies to me. I really appreciate it. But it's one of the only movies that has done found footage correctly. But there's something about it that intrigues me. And so like Ghost Hunters and all that kind of stuff is interesting to me. I do like it, but it's fun to make fun of. And so there's this show like BuzzFeed Unsolved, I think is what it's called, on YouTube, where literally it's this guy who like believes in paranormal stuff paired with a guy who doesn't. And so the whole show is just the guy like roasting him, like making fun of the fact, like, okay, let's see if he's gonna appear, like, oh, I've got a tasty like bacon strip for you or something. Like he does that stupid crap like that, and
that's where like you're just like
so funny.
hoping that something does happen. It's like, ha ha, take that, buddy. You know,
it's a fun show.
Yeah,
even though I've only watched one episode of it, it's fine.
I think the silliest found footage movie that I've seen is As Above, So Below. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that one.
Is that the one ridiculous. With like all the skulls under the Eiffel Tower?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like this French reporter who's in Paris, and then they go into the sewers, and then they go, like, they just go through these
catacombs.
And then they end up in, like, an underworld type of thing, and then they escape. It was kind of fun to watch it, but it was dumb, for sure.
Most found footage movies are dumb, but I would recommend The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project is terrifying.
Yeah. The biggest thing about found footage movies is I'm like, y'all are about to die. Just put down the camera. Why are y'all still carrying around the camera?
So there's the crazy stuff is going on. Did you watch Biden's address to the nation? Like not too long ago, just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, I did not.
I was at work.
Have you seen that? Like the Taliban has taken over Kabul, so they officially
that happened today.
Yeah. So the Taliban officially controls all of Afghanistan.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Jeez.
Yeah, they made it a couple days.
Yeah,
without the United States,
a couple of days. So yeah, it's really an insane thing.
Very sad.
Yeah, it's sad. Like I feel like America probably has a big burden of responsibility in that conflict. And certainly, like, it seems to me like we're abandoning a lot of our mess that we created.
Right. Yeah, I feel like people were really banking on us being there to help their infrastructure continue.
Right. For sure.
Like,
well, we started saying that we would do that. Yeah. We were the ones who like had pledged like $1 trillion to help rebuild roads and establish a new democratic republic. And
then we're just like, peace.
See you later, buddies.
And
yeah.
You know, obviously what we created was not sustainable because they lasted 3 days.
And the Taliban still has like really close ties with Al Qaeda and a whole bunch of different international terrorist organizations, and so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an intense thing.
I you know, my heart goes out to Afghanistan and everybody in Kabul who's trying to escape, who wasn't able to get out, and like I don't know. I feel like we should probably be praying a lot for them.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to go through a lot.
Have you read any of Nabil Qureshi? Do you know?
I have one of his books in my office. I haven't.
You do. We've talked about that.
I haven't actually started his book
yet. Yeah. I've always really appreciated Nabil Qureshi. Like he was whenever I first started taking Christianity seriously, he was one of the first people that I read a lot of that I liked because I had like Muslim people on my route at the post office.
Yeah.
And I knew people at the post office who were Muslims. And so I was interested, and so I started looking up. Another thing, one of the big things that interested me was Ravi Zacharias.
You can't say that now.
Yeah, can't even say his name.
Yeah,
Ravi Zacharias wrote this one book,
canceled.
Jesus Amongst Many Gods, or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. Which I didn't. What was that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find tremendously impactful. It was kind of interesting, but I didn't take a lot out of it, except for the fact that Ravi Zacharias said that, like in his headcanon, I can't think of another better term for it. The way that he saw like in times unfolding was that an Islamic State would be control over the majority of the world population.
Interesting.
And that's what would. And I don't. It's whatever. It's in times. Theorism, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Not terribly applicable. But that intrigued me to the point where I was like, I really don't know much about Islam, and I have all these people like within my community that are Muslims.
Yeah.
So I want to figure more out about it. And so I started reading Nabil Qureshi, just coincidentally, who I had like close ties with RZIM. I found out later. But I started reading Nabil Qureshi, and he was a Muslim who met a Christian in college.
Right.
They became very close friends and, of course, like debated Christianity versus Islam. And so they entered this gentleman's wager where they were like, hey, I'll try to prove Islam false, you try to prove Christianity false, and whoever succeeds, like these are the core tenets of each religion. Whoever succeeds at proving each of those core tenets false, the other person has to become that other religion or whatever.
Right. Because that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
For sure.
Like I said, they were trying to be relatively lighthearted with it, I guess. But it became really serious whenever Nabil found that he just couldn't back up a lot of the claims of Islam and couldn't disprove a lot of the claims of Christianity. And so as he started having these big conversations with his friend and his family, he ended up leaving Islam and converting to Christianity and became a Christian apologist against Islam. And he details the story of that conversion experience in his book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, which I think is what you have.
Yeah.
It's like an autobiographical testimony.
Awesome.
But ever since I read like all of Nabil's stuff, I've always really appreciated the struggles that Muslim people go through, especially, Muslim majority countries like Afghanistan and Syria and all the others. And so I always pay close attention whenever stuff like that is going down.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was interesting to me, just because Biden keeps on trying to push like onto Trump like this idea that like,
right.
Oh well, Trump entered this agreement with the Taliban, which he did. Entered this agreement with the Taliban to say that they would completely withdraw all U.S. troops if the Taliban kept up these certain number of things, whatever.
Yeah.
Which they haven't, but we've still been withdrawing troops, but Biden like campaigned on the promise to like get
the troops out.
Yeah. So definitely is what, in my opinion, a mistake. So we'll see what happens, but it seems to me like already we're having to send troops back in just to get the people that we have there,
the embassy and all those people out.
Yeah. But like there's videos of like a recent video was people like civilians storming an airfield.
Yeah,
a U.S. airfield, trying to like get on a plane, like dying, like trying to get on a plane. They're so desperate to get out of the country because they're afraid of what.
Yeah, I saw
Taliban rule will be like.
Planes were taking off, and there were literally people trying to hang onto the wheels.
Yeah,
like just
desperate.
Like commercial jets, like they're not going to be able to hang on to that.
I can't even imagine like knowing that that's coming.
Yeah,
how you prepare yourself for that.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not a good time.
Nope.
Yeah. Anyways, not to get all heavy on you. Sorry. I thought about that for some reason, and it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we make it not heavy anymore?
Where do we go from there?
Have you been listening to Rise and Fall of Mars Hill?
I have it saved. It's my next podcast I'm going to pick up.
Golly, Devin.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. It's really interesting, but I can't decide whether or not. So there's a lot of people who are listening to it, and a lot of people who are, talking a lot about it, especially in like church leader, circles.
Yeah. Like all my other podcasts I listen to have a podcast about the Mars Hill.
Podcast about the podcast.
And so it's an interesting story, but I don't really like it because it feels kind of icky to like peel apart this like church's dirty laundry and look at like all of their flaws and how they really facilitated a culture of emotional and spiritual abuse for a long time.
Right.
It feels kind of gross to do, but it's important, I think.
Yeah,
because it sheds light on something.
It's a warning.
Yeah,
it's a warning to
absolutely.
I think it's also just helpful for people that are listening that are just congregation members to start to recognize traits of abuse, because you can be in a very abusive situation and not realize it. I mean, that's a big problem with any form of abuse, apart from like church abuse, is the abusee doesn't always see the pattern of abuse.
Well, part of it is having to rationalize the situation that you're in, especially whenever you don't have any control over it. Yeah. And so you try to make it make sense to you.
And it seems like the theme that they're really hitting at is like, well, we're being successful, so we're just going to not look at what's going on behind the scenes so that we can be successful. But it's like, what is actually success in the kingdom, And And
they phrased it really well in one episode. I can't remember, but they say something about how like they often think like, oh, I'll tolerate this for the success of the ministry,
right.
But what am I like? What cost am I willing to pay for the success? Like the way that they phrased it, like really cleared it up, where you really shouldn't consider it as like, oh, these are the things that I have to tolerate. You should consider it as these are the prices that I'm paying for. And so if the cons are starting to outweigh the pros,
right.
or even if like to get the pros you have to deal with certain
a bunch of cons,
like
it's not good.
Probably not a healthy way to do ministry.
Right.
It's just
right.
kind of terrifying thinking about how prevalent that probably is. Just thinking about the minor prophets and the history of Israel and all of the people in leadership. Those little things led up to
Jeremiah, who is combating people who literally are saying things that like are difficult to distinguish from like some of the things that you hear in other prophets. Like no, Israel is God's people, and Israel, and God will stand by His people, and blah blah blah. Like is the narrative that Jeremiah's opposers are telling the people, and Jeremiah has to be like, nope.
That's not what's going on.
Which is, like I said, like you can hear that kind of echo of other portions of scripture that they're using to reinforce their narratives, and so it is difficult to speak truth to power and to identify whenever people in positions of power are wrong. But I watched Suicide again recently, and I really appreciate that movie.
Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Okay. Just said I watched Suicide.
Yeah, I was like,
I did?
Yeah.
Whoops.
I didn't know if you were talking about a different movie.
Misspoke. Watch Suicide Squad this again.
I haven't seen it, so
It's
good.
fantastic.
It's really good.
I would like to go see it.
Yeah.
I've heard it's very violent.
It's very, very
It is.
violent.
And so
It is.
I don't think Logan would want to go see it.
I wouldn't recommend that you go see it.
Like,
Well,
because it's
I'm
a
gonna
hard
see it.
R rating, but I really enjoyed the
on
movie.
this church podcast.
when
I'm
I-
not recommending that you go see Suicide.
But I will say how fantastic it was. But my point is, there's a big part of the movie is people at low levels of authority standing up against power that they know is wrong. And it's like there's an interesting subtext that the narrative creates where even like you as people under position of somebody in power have the obligation and responsibility to place checks on that power.
Yeah.
And so while in a system like at Mark Driscoll's church, it's just, I don't think it's out of place for congregation members to be like, hey, this probably isn't great.
Right.
I think that we probably have a responsibility as Christians, and especially as members of a church, to fight for, what we believe is right within the church.
Absolutely.
Now, like, and the ways that you go about doing that, like with leadership, is always going to be is difficult. You want to you hear the phrase like truth spoken in love, and you want to do that, like, but there's also like truth spoken with respect.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult line to navigate.
Very much so.
But I do think that like the members of Mark Driscoll's church have an obligation to let Mark Driscoll know, like, hey, this isn't probably okay.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that like is going on at that church was insane.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of it was tolerated.
If you're listening to it, episode 5.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Episode 5 is insane.
But yeah,
it's a great podcast.
as one who's come into a little bit more authority within the church, like, stuff terrifies me,
right.
because it's like, I never want to be to a point where, like, I'm just trying to build myself up.
Yeah.
Like, I always want to be about the kingdom. And really, like, day to day, like, our hearts are so all over the place. Sometimes, like, we probably aren't motivated by the right things, and are looking to our own self-interests. And, really just the Christian life really requires you to
a great deal of humility.
And stop and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You know,
I would think like you as a student leader would want students or leaders in the student ministry to approach you if they saw a problem with the way that you were leading. I think that's a quality of good leadership is facilitating place for like my authority to be checked or whatever.
I'm constantly asking Logan, my wife, and Jaden, my intern, and Manuel, when he was here, rest in peace.
Manuel. Now he's dead.
Now he is
us.
Dead to us. That's right. But constantly asking like, hey, was that okay? Hey, does this sound good? Hey, what do you think about this? You know, like, and I could see how very quickly, you know, I could stop asking those questions and get off into the weeds, doing my own thing and like get away from what I should be doing, you know, but I think it's important for checks and balances.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. And the division of power. That's
that humility is such a key aspect of like wielding power, especially for like people dedicated to pursuing God and who He is and what He wants. I do a huddle and we're going through 1 Samuel at the moment, and we just are getting to David and Saul. And so the differences in those mindsets, I've always found Saul a really relatable character. I've always really, really appreciated Saul because he feels so human. Like he just feels like such a. Those would be the mistakes that I would make if I was in that position. And is just so like afflicted by like mental illness. Obviously, there's probably some kind of like bipolar or something that's happening there.
Yeah.
But he's just a really interesting character, and the difference between him and David on one of the biggest differences is David's humility. We did the whole section where we started with David and Goliath, and we ended with David running away to Gath. And if you look at Saul's first and really like only victory, and David's first victory, the difference between them is really stark. Where Saul cuts up an ox and sends it to all the different tribes of Israel, and says, "Hey, if you don't come and help me fight these people, I'll do this to you." And so they do. They show up and they help him fight off the enemy, and that's Saul's one of his biggest victories. Whereas David's victory against Goliath is this picture of reliance on God and humility. Like I'm not doing this in my own power. I'm doing this under God's authority. And that's like the difference there is really stark.
Huge.
Yeah. It invites serious like comparison and contrast. Anyways, this was serious. Hey,
so, as part of my quiet time today, I read, talk about serious, in Genesis, the defiling of Dinah.
Oh boy.
And how that, and I was like, I'm just going to take this story and I'm just going to set it aside, and I'm going to go to the New Testament now and do my quiet time.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what to take out of this.
I mean, so it sounds weird. That's a great story.
It's a great story.
It has so much impact on Judah specifically as a character.
Yes.
Especially like once you get to like Judah and Tamar stuff.
Yeah.
There's those chapters in Genesis that you kind of want to like.
It's like
which frequently they do. So I get in trouble sometimes for saying how much I hate Explore the Bible, but I hate Explore the Bible because I used to teach in the students,
and they just like skip over here,
and they'll skip over stuff.
It's like, we're not sure what to do with this, so
they want to go through all of Genesis, and they'll skip over. They skip over Dinah, and they skip over Judah and Tamar.
Right.
And like Judah and Tamar is like completely necessary to understanding like the character arc of Judah.
Right.
Between like from being a person who literally is selling his brother into slavery to the person who will enter slavery on behalf of his brother.
Right.
Like you need the Judah Tamar narrative in there to make sense of that. And like Judah's the person who the promise gets passed down through.
Yeah.
Like he becomes like this self-sacrificial image of like what Christ will ultimately become. And so like it makes sense for the whole narrative. You have to have like Judah and Tamar in there.
Yeah, right.
Well, like you can't teach kids those stories if you're using the model of like look at these people and emulate them when they're entire like because everybody in the Dinah story like screws up. Like,
everybody.
They try to fix the problem. They did it bad. No character is good is good. Everyone responds terribly.
Yeah, so there's a line in there in the middle of it that just says, and then they set out to deceive them. It's like, all right.
It's probably not the right course of action.
And then Jacob's response afterwards is just useless.
What did you do?
What'd you do? You should
now
do that.
I can't make deals with these people.
Okay.
And like he should have been making. Why are you making deals with people that raped your daughter?
Bro, what the heck?
It's fine.
Where's the love?
Yeah. So if you're teaching the Bible that way of look at these moral examples or like you're not
which is so seldomly the Bible. It's so seldomly the way that the Bible wants to be approached that I think it's probably unhelpful to like reinforce that way of reading the narrative.
Right.
See, I feel like even the people that those types of programs point to and say, hey, be like this person. Yeah. Even those people aren't very... Because like Noah, there's a whole passage where Noah's just like passed out drunk and naked and running around.
Well, Noah's very much meant to be, you get like a new Adam. You hit the reboot button on the universe and now Noah's the guy who everybody's going to come from. Yeah. And he messes up just like Adam and Eve do.
And then Abraham's a new Adam.
And he messes up immediately.
Sex slaves.
Yes.
And he goes into Egypt and he gives his wife away to
he's like, she's my sister.
He's giving his wife away and accruing more women.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, what is happening?
One of whom is probably Hagar. Like you see like the seeds of like it's really
That's crazy.
Go read the Bible because it's so cool.
It's amazing.
It's such a well-crafted
It's
narrative.
not all just sex slaves though.
It's not. No, that's not. That's actually a very minor part of most of the narrative.
No. to be fair, it's very minor, but most major biblical characters that we are like the heroes, a lot of them are rapists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much.
See, I grew up in church big time, and I grew up knowing all the stories, and I'm talking, I was way older by the time I heard about Judah and Tamar. Like, I didn't even, no one told me about it. I ran across it in my Bible, and I read it, and I was like, dang, that's freaky. This is like a whole new level of biblical.
And so just really subjectively, like how old were you? Like 17?
Right now?
No, whenever you read it.
I was like, what?
Whenever you read it.
That's about, I'd probably about 16. But
so what did you think about the narrative? And how did it make you feel about the Bible?
I was genuinely shocked when I read it, for sure. But I don't know, I thought that, I guess it took a little pondering, but eventually I guess it made me see the Bible as a little bit more complex than what because I mean we're kind of, a lot of us are like spoon fed when we're kids.
For sure.
There's Noah and the ark on the walls of the nursery, and we don't tell them it's like he killed everybody. But it's I think that it's much more complex than what we teach children when they're young. For sure.
Yeah, and that simplicity has its place, certainly. Like, so as much as I read on Explore the Bible is an invaluable teaching resource, and really does a very good job of teaching the Bible to our students. Yeah.
Is that something we do?
Explore the Bible is what?
No, it's a Lifeway.
Yeah, it's Lifeway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not, we're not creating it.
But it is the curriculum that we have endorsed for the education of our students. And like I said, it's a well-picked curriculum. It really does.
It does.
Teach.
It does.
It provides teachers with really great resources to be able to teach students. But it skips over some of the stuff to make it a little more simpler, to make it more accessible to people who aren't as familiar with the narratives.
Yeah, and actually, the Dinah story, is that what you're talking about? I actually am not 100% sure what story y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
But we don't have to talk about it.
Sure.
Is that the daughter, and she dresses like
Devin's got you.
Okay.
So it's the sister of the 12 tribes of Jacob, because he has 12 sons. Yep. They named one of the daughters, and during just in Genesis, the Abraham, Isaac, get to Jacob and his family migrating and stuff like that. Just one of the stories you run into is that this tribe comes across and like one of the princes of it, I think, finds her attractive, and he rapes her. And then
not just rapes, but humiliates.
So
whatever that means.
Yeah, but even that. So I'm not about to call it not rape. He rapes her.
It says he
forcibly
took her.
There are circumstances surrounding it though that like a lot of translations translate it as defile and not rape.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing though?
Yeah, pretty
the
much.
Same thing,
but why not just say rape? Like there are circumstances around it that are different from just
I think
like any man at any time in these times
right.
could just have his way with any woman that he wanted to and then be done with her.
Yeah.
But like the way that like it's Shu something, I can't remember what his name is. The way that he specifically like goes out of his way, Shaq maybe. The way that he specifically goes out of his way to take care of her and like bring her into his family, like he wants to marry her,
even?
and like his family like so supports like his marriage to her, that they're willing to spoiler alert circumcise themselves. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You just stole the
So
thunder.
it's different than like he grabbed someone off the street and then just raped her right there.
Right.
He did not have consent.
No.
It was rape.
No. Yes.
It says he seized her.
Yeah. My point is, I think the narrative maybe isn't so black and white as this was an invasion and transgression, against the
it
Jacob
was
family.
like this political alliance in the works sort of thing, and then he rapes her before they're like officially married. Whether or not that was actually going to happen, it's unclear.
Yeah,
right.
And then Dan and
Levi?
Dan and Levi are very mad about it. So I think all the brothers get together and like, all right, Dad, we'll figure something out.
Well, first that he asks, "Can I marry your daughter?"
Right. He comes to them, and then Dan
after
and
he's raped
Levi
her.
take it upon themselves to go make a deal with them, and we're like, well, you can marry her, but you all have to get circumcised. So every man gets circumcised, and while they're in recovery, because they can't like stand or walk, they go and murder every single man in the town.
Wait, while they were recovering?
Yeah,
from being
that's
circumcised.
the whole point.
That's
Is the brothers were like,
It's
hey,
a trick.
the bridal party says you all have to get circumcised, and so they're planning in their heads they're not going to be able to fight us, and so we're going to go kill them.
And it's not like a couple of guys. It's like the entire city.
Yeah,
the men in their city, all of them circumcise themselves, and then like on the second or third day, something like that. Yeah, they come in, these two guys with their swords, and just kill every man.
Yeah.
Dang. See,
well, most likely with a large army of slaves.
Yeah.
They use their slaves to kill all of them, and then they take the women and children as more slaves.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's rough.
And
so that's where the Levites come from.
And that's how I started my day today.
Yeah.
I was like,
and Jacob's big problem with it at the end of the narrative is now everyone's going to be afraid of us, and we're not trustworthy anymore. So I can't make deals with people because they're going to think, whenever I make a deal with you, I'm just going to come and kill you and steal all your stuff.
And then the story just ends. And it's like, and
it moves on.
And then we're going on to the next thing.
And Jacob was going to give his daughter, like sell her to the man that raped her.
Yeah.
And he's upset because of that transaction failed, and now he seems untrustworthy on his political alliances.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's fine.
Everyone's bad.
I will say that you said you read that for your quiet time?
Yeah, it's part of my quiet time.
Yeah. So I have a hard time reading the Old Testament with for my quiet times, with the exception of Psalms and Proverbs.
Sure.
Because it's very like the New Testament is very like digestible. You know, you're like, hey,
what a
this
great
is
word for it.
You're like, hey, this is how you're supposed to have your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Do this and don't do this. That's the kind of how the New Testament works, at least for me. That I'm, from the lens point that I'm seeing it through. But the Old Testament is like a bunch of stories that I've heard a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't feel as much of an urge to go back and read it. Leviticus, I don't think I've ever read Leviticus all the way through.
There's great stuff in Leviticus.
But it's so hard to get through though.
It is. There are big portions.
I won't go on the podcast and do my little spiel on why Leviticus.
Oh
is
yeah,
great.
I've heard it though.
Yeah. Watch the Bible Project videos. It makes it much more digestible.
Oh yeah,
so
those are great resources.
There's a lot in Leviticus that points specifically to who Jesus was and what he ultimately will become.
And atonement.
I've been told that there's a lot of parallels between what God is telling the Israelites to do.
But there's a lot of stuff that is difficult to rationalize from the Old Testament.
Because it is, like, if I'm being honest, it is hard sometimes. Like, people ask me questions, especially at school. Sometimes they're like, oh, you're a Christian. Then they talk about, like, ask me questions about how I can reconcile the God of the New Testament and the God of the Old Testament. I don't really know what to tell them.
Have you read Job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you know what the end of Job is?
Yeah.
About, so Job is probably my favorite book of the Bible. We talked about this before in the past. Job is probably one of my favorite books of the Bible, and essentially the question it presents, you get the linear narrative of the Old Testament, which is Genesis to Esther, about the founding of the world, the founding of the Jewish people, their enslavement, their liberation, and their ultimate culmination as a nation, and then their fall as a nation, and then they're scattered, but then God brings them back and they rebuild the city. And hope for a Messiah who will ultimately free them from.
And the reforms fail.
Yeah, and so that's basically the linear narrative. But the basic message, you might say, of the linear narrative is: look at the Jewish people. If you do what God tells you to do, everything will go well with you. If you don't, it won't. Because the Jewish people prosper whenever they do what God says, and whenever they don't, they are destroyed as a nation.
I would put it in slightly different terms because we don't want to preach moralism, but it's more of turning to God, because when they turn to false gods and foreign nations, the people of the false gods would come and kill them.
Right. And that's why I'm saying, like, you really want Job. Yeah. Because you might read the Bible really simplistically the way that I put it, like a moralistic, kind of narrative, which it's not. But the Bible understands that might be a danger for most people. So immediately the first thing that it gives you after the linear narrative is Job, where you get a man who was perfect, totally blameless, did the right thing always, and gets obliterated. Like, everything in his life is the worst that it could possibly be. And so the whole book is a big conversation about, why do bad things happen to good people? And at the end of Job, essentially God's message is, the way that I run the universe is so unfathomably complicated for you that you would fry your brain if you tried to understand it. Yeah. Don't try to understand it, because you won't be able to. I'm sorry this sucks for you. I know that it does. But just trust me and trust that I know what I'm doing, and that I'm doing the right thing. Right. See, and so that's my approach to a lot of scripture. There's a lot of scripture that I just really find. The Bible, there's straight up portions of the Bible that, endorse genocide of entire people groups. And that's difficult for me to rationalize. But God has so proved himself to me in the past, and so proved himself to me through big, very understandable portions of the biblical narrative. That in those smaller moments where I'm confused, and they are questions, they're big, important questions, I can certainly place my trust in him that he knows what he's doing, and that it's for not only my betterment, but the betterment of our world and everybody. And but it's a difficult thing to do. Yeah. Why does God tell people to commit genocide, Tanner? Because give us a quick 10-minute answer.
The early church fathers, they would typically allegorize that story just to it was allegory.
Another thing that I've heard, there was a guy at Lamar that we were talking to, me, Matt, and Manuel. This was years ago, but this guy was talking, and he was like,
Matt Landrum.
Yeah, Matt Landrum, and he was
Manuel Humphrey. We gotta make that.
Manuel Humphrey.
Doesn't work here anymore.
David
Seaga. And David Seaga.
David Seaga.
Yeah. And the he was like, we sat down, we did like the bridge thing, bridge method or whatever, and the very first thing he said was, "What, doesn't God endorse slavery?" And we were, I know. I was like completely stumped. I was like, and the verse that he was pointing to was, "The slaves obey your masters, for this is what is good and right in the Lord."
It's a serious question. And having just read through The Color of Compromise, I don't know if that was whenever we started recording or not, but me and Devin were talking about Color of Compromise by Jamar Tisby.
Yeah, I think stuff happened afterwards that we were like, oh, that's not going to make it. So, but we were talking about that.
But a huge portion of it's about how the church has compromised with racism and slavery of the black people.
Sometimes in American history been the main propagators of upholding
a big portion of the church used verses like that to justify the continuation of systemic chattel slavery.
See, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
And the
but there's and that's what I mean by you have to read the Bible as a whole. Yeah. And there are small moments where yes, that's difficult to rationalize and hard to understand. But then there are bigger moments of like read Philemon. I don't know how anybody can read Philemon and say that the Bible justifies and rationalizes slavery.
I can tell you how. Yeah. I've been in spaces because in the same passage that it talks about the slavery, it also talks about wife submission, and I've known people that are so into like patriarchy and stuff like that they'll start to, because it's in the same passage.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're saying that wives are submitting in the way they're saying it, then you're saying that it would have to mean that slaves and submit. Like, they go together.
The language is
and they'll
the same.
start to justify slavery.
Yeah.
And they use Philemon because the wordage is that receive him no longer as a slave, but more than a slave, as a brother, and they take the more than a slave to say that, he was still a slave.
Yeah.
And slavery is fine if you do it right. And
I feel like a lot of times we take like a very small part of a passage and we just quote that part.
We just twist it to make it say what we want.
Like
the letter versus the spirit, which is the way that a lot of people used the Bible to justify slavery, like you're talking about, is by letter versus the spirit. Because if you gauge by the spirit, like obviously, like the spirit of the text or the law, obviously Philemon. I don't understand how you can read Philemon and still think that it's okay to hold a slave.
I've known pastors to preach through Philemon because of race issues currently, because they were against like anti-racism movements and things like that, and they used Philemon. They twisted it to say, slavery, if done right, is bad. John MacArthur, I know a lot of people, even friends here that like John MacArthur. John MacArthur has you can look it up, has a clip talking about how, people aren't opposed to the institution of marriage because there are abuses in it. So why should we be opposed to the institution of slavery just because there are abuses of it? And he conflates the idea that marriage is it's a God-given institution. He fails to recognize that slavery is a man-made institution that's a force of oppression. And he's one of the biggest people that are like anti racial reconciliation and stuff like that.
Wow.
Right.
And you end up having to go to a place of you start justifying slavery for that. And big name preachers that I know a lot of people that have his study Bible, and it's just sad to me because it's a whole thing.
Oh man, it all goes back to like the Mark Driscoll thing. Like I'm sure he thought he was in the right and like could justify himself with the Bible.
And that's why it's so important to have that congregational check.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, even if you go back to like Levitical law, that says like, hey, you can beat your slaves, but only this amount.
Jeez,
we're throwing out so many problems with the Bible without explaining them. We need to have a follow-up.
We do.
Next week.
It's fine.
5 hour.
There are answers that would satisfy you. We're not giving them to you.
I'm gonna
find them out.
If you go to the YouTube video, go into the description. I'm gonna put a bunch of links to articles and stuff that'll help you.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, a lot of these questions because we're not
on this one.
We're not answering these a lot
because I don't know the answers.
But my point with bringing like examples like that up in Leviticus is people focus on the fact that the Bible allows for the beating of slave, but they don't focus on the fact that the Bible limits the amount of times that you can beat your slave, that doesn't sound like a great thing. But in its context, the Bible takes the first step on a road that no other text took, which was it took the first step on the road to humanizing slaves, to making them something that were a people group. The Bible straight up makes conditions for the freeing of all slaves every 7 years, which was radical. Why would a slave is my property? Why would I get rid of my coffee table every 7 years if it wasn't a person?
Yeah. And real quick on that note, like I don't think that those texts condone slavery in any sense because they're meant to be built upon. These are basically like, hi, I'm God. I love you. You're a horrible person. At least do this. And even though you still have slaves, I'm not going to obliterate you because if I did, you'd be gone. Because the Bible doesn't always overturn these giant systemic things. It doesn't have this instant overturn these things, but it gives you the building steps to see that this is what needs to happen. With patriarchy, with slavery, Paul didn't go in and go completely turn everything around, completely flip the system, but he gave you the theology to be like, this is what needs to happen. I'm not trying to overturn society here, but as Christians in the society, move against that grain.
And so I've seen some weird stuff like this in South Sudan when I was there. Like There's polygamy. There's their daughters are not daughters. They're looked at as property to be sold to make a profit. Like, and they sell them off when they're as soon as they hit their first period to start having babies and making money. You know, it's this really weird system. And there were so many things that, like, we'd go into villages and there's so many things that I'd want to change. But it's like, I'm going to be here for 3 months. And what actually is going to help is for them to get to know Jesus, to get scripture, and to start seeing that they are messed up as a society. And the changes, you know, I would be there my whole life if I were trying to fix their culture.
Right. And probably would find greater opposition, like, by addressing not the fundamental problem.
So as people started accepting Christ, they started realizing when they started listening to their Bible, our audio Bibles, because they didn't have written word. I had men come to me and say, "Hey, I realize now that it's wrong to have multiple wives. What do I do with? Do I keep my favorite and then get rid of the rest?" And I was like, "Oh my,
this is a problem I didn't think I'd have to counsel
and
people
so,
on."
like me and my team got together. We're like, "What do we tell these guys?" And so what we came to a consensus was, "Hey, don't marry anybody else.
Yikes!
And take care of the wives that you have currently, and don't treat them like they're second rate, but treat them as an equal because they are made in the image of God, just as you are." And so, like, we had to deal with so many problems that I never knew I was going to have to deal with.
But fundamentally, like, an encounter with the gospel led people to start thinking
So
more morally.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got a question.
No.
So,
David, you've already brought.
I know. I'm
too many
sorry,
questions.
but what Tanner was saying made me think of it. So, in the Old Testament, there's like so many times, people have wives, and God tells them, "Hey, take this wife."
Yeah.
And
well,
like, didn't that happen with?
It does happen with David. God gives David like his fifth wife.
So is there like a new? Is there like a verse that? I mean, I'm obviously
technically
not saying
the
that,
Bible never says to not have multiple wives, but it's a condition for you can't be a pastor and elder if you have multiple wives.
Right.
And it does say that about kings, though.
Right.
In Leviticus or Deuteronomy.
Not to take many wives from other nations.
Yeah. Okay. There is a verse in Leviticus, however, that at least by the time of the New Testament, this was an interpretation at the time, it says not to marry a sister of your wife or like one of your wife's sisters. Right. And now what people will take that mean is like, don't marry two sisters, but sister and brother in many times in the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, have the connotation of when you say brother or sister, it means another Israelite. Right. And it was already an interpretation over 2,000 years ago before the New Testament comes around. Yeah. They interpret it as that means no polygamy. So there's no way we can know that for sure, but it is an ancient interpretation that is very possible.
And again, if you go by spirit and not letter, obviously the Bible... The first polygamist in the Bible is Lamech, who takes multiple wives as property and
sings a song about the man he killed.
Right. He kills a guy and is like, I'm such a cool person because I killed that guy. And so, like, pretty quickly, like polygamy is put in this light of treating other people as property and paints that negatively. So if you look at like every situation where polygamy is involved, it almost never goes super well.
And part of why I think that the Old Testament doesn't have, it may be in that verse, but at least it doesn't have a super hard stance, even if it has that, is because it's horrible. And the Bible sets it up as you're treating them as property. Not as a human being. It's horrible in every instance, but like, I think what the advice y'all gave, Tanner, to them is perfect because in the Old Testament, it's this idea that this is how the world is working. These women will starve and die. So do not divorce them because you're sentencing them to death.
Women fundamentally had no societal effect.
The reason why we came up with that response was because we started asking our translators who were also from that culture, like, hey, what happens to divorced women? And they were like, they'll be cast out of the village and they'll be in the wilderness and they'll die. And I was like, okay, we don't want that.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we would never have it. But in an Old Testament world, like if God made that a hard line for you to be a follower of Yahweh, you have to only have one wife and divorce the ones you have. That was a death sentence to millions of women.
Yeah,
I got you.
It's the same. The Bible makes. We can all agree that divorce is horrible. The Bible makes provision for divorce, and Jesus says it that same way. Moses gave you provision for divorce because y'all are hard-hearted and y'all are going to do it whether you want to or not.
And that's a crazy thing. That indicates that there are things in the law that are not, like, God is not okay with.
But that's obvious. Like once
way,
we start reading it, like you said, there's no strict position in the Bible that specifically says, hey, you have to not do polygamy. But this guy, upon encountering the gospel, started analyzing his life and looking at other people in his life as people, like enfranchising people, giving them rights like in his own mind. Like that has to be Holy Spirit driven to me.
One of our first converts, it was definitely a Holy Spirit thing, but he was a warrior. And basically warrior there means I'm going to go out, I'm going to kill enemy tribesmen and steal their cattle because that's ultimately our source of income, cattle. And so we started sharing the gospel to this guy. And he said, this voice in my head is telling me it's wrong to kill people and that I need to follow this Jesus guy.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, the voice in your head
is right.
Thank you, Holy Spirit. But I'm also like standing in front of this guy. He's like 6'5", and he's like not an ounce of fat on him. He's this giant warrior dude. And I'm just like, I'm so glad you told me that you kill people for a living. Like, I'm glad I found that out after I started sharing the gospel with you. You know, like
it's the reason why historians track the spread of Christianity by looking at where laws were enacted, like abolishing infanticide and gladiatorial matches and establishing hospitals and homeless shelters. Like as Christianity spread and gained like actual societal influence. We built the first hospitals. Like hospitals were invented by Christians. Yeah. We built the first homeless shelters. We abolished gladiatorial matches and infanticide. And none of those things are specifically like denounced or given permission for by the Bible. Yeah. But Christianity causes you to look at other human beings as made in the image of God and as infinitely valuable. And if you're in that position, you just can't accept another person as property.
Well, it's like the Lord's Prayer, like forgive us of our debts as we've forgiven our debtors. And even in the section about slaves, well, there are multiple in Paul's writings, but one of them details like to treat them with justice and equity, and it kind of echoes this idea of you've been forgiven much, forgive. And he's kind of like in a roundabout way being like, hey, the gospel, like if Jesus died for your sins and atoned for everything and defeated sin and death for you, why are you owning someone? Like,
amazing.
So I mean,
the Bible's cool.
Yeah,
don't leave at the end of this podcast thinking like, oh man, there's all these horrible things in the Bible that I didn't know about.
Surprise!
The Bible is a fascinatingly complex, complicated, and nuanced narrative that helps you understand not just who God is, but God's role in human history. Yeah. And so human history is horrible.
It is.
And so obviously God's role in human history, better understanding God's role in human history helps you better understand human history and helps you see things that are just really difficult to process. But there are resources all over online, gotquestions.org.com. If you just search Got Questions, has great resources to all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And will, and do your own research. There's an absolutely massive amount of critical reading that you can do that will help you answer all of these questions. If we haven't answered them sufficiently, which we obviously haven't. Like I said, look in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this anywhere else, go to the YouTube channel, look in the description, and there's going to be some links to articles there.
Put a lot of articles. I feel like we hit so many different ones.
I'm gonna find one that'll sum it all up.
It's called the Bible. Go read it.
Man, this episode got real heavy. We usually don't get quite as heavy as we usually do.
Sorry.
Tanner, you're preaching this Wednesday at Renewal, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That's gonna be
Kevin's ditched us for a month, and so
Rest in peace.
who I'm really excited
Yeah, he's
about.
dead to us too.
Yeah, right. Gosh, everybody's ditching us.
For real.
I'm really looking forward to Justin.
That's true.
Next week.
Justin will be here next week.
Always incredible.
It's gonna be fantastic.
Devin, have you heard Justin preach yet?
I have.
Okay.
A few years ago, because I before I started coming here regularly, I would visit every once in a while.
Okay.
So yeah, I heard him multiple times back then. Just a handful though, honestly.
Okay.
And then he's come a few times back. Since,
that's true.
Since I've been coming regularly.
That is true.
Yeah,
I started back in probably about a year before Justin ended up moving to North.
Yeah.
So I started in Renewal while Justin was there.
Yeah.
And only heard Romans from him because they were in that series.
I think we were there for like
5 years.
3 years.
It was a long time.
Close to that. Something like that.
It was forever. I think it was 3 years. It was a long time.
Yeah, I think it was like. I think there might have been something before Romans I saw like a long time, but it was like all Romans. And then I think I went there for like Reformation Day. Like because I think
he
it
took
was like
some
the Wednesday
took some
after or something like
respites
that.
from the Roman train.
I think he did Philippians once. But
I don't remember that.
well, this was like way back when I had just graduated high school.
Gotcha.
So we're talking 11, 12 years ago. Golly, I'm old.
That's disgusting.
Anyways,
Gosh, that's like half my life ago.
No, it's not.
It is.
Oh yeah, I guess that is. Gross. That's fine.
Oh, everybody's so young in here.
Yeah.
I'm old.
10 years ago, I graduated high
I'm
school.
older than you. Wait, am I? How old are you?
How old are you, David?
I don't actually
20.
We said it before. I'm
20.
I'm 16.
No, you're not.
Well,
I said
just tell me,
17 earlier.
am I older than you,
I'm,
David?
I'm
Okay.
20.
20. I knew
How old
it.
am I?
24.
We don't know.
No, I'm
21?
not that old. I'm trying to remember.
Are you 21?
No,
You're 22, aren't you?
maybe.
Good old
I find it difficult to remember my birthday.
I have too many
my date, my
more
age.
important things than my age in my head. It just
Yes.
it just screwed it out. I'm 23. I'll go with that.
Okay.
Sounds right.
Yeah,
You know,
Final
there's
answer.
simple math
what
you
year is
can
it?
do to figure it out.
2021, 98. It's past my birthday this year, right? What month is it? Yep. 23. There we go. Okay.
Nice. There we go.
28. God, that's disgusting.
29 going on 30. What's up?
I don't like it.
Oh, I'm turning 30.
Elio's
like the
turning 30.
Bo Burnham
Like the Bo Burnham song.
inside.
Now I've got that stuck in my head.
Elio's
Oh my
turning
gosh.
I thought he was like 28, but I
I
guess
had
that
no
was like a
idea
year
Elio
ago. I
was
found
that
out
old.
or something. So
Elio, I think either just turned 30 or is turning 30 like in a month.
Elio is going to be 31, I think. I think he's a year older
snap.
than I am.
Is he?
No, that's not.
Oh, 30.
Elio?
I'm sorry.
30,
He's
yeah.
turning 30.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike
Because
me
he was
as
on the
being
podcast
30.
with Stephanie recently, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we had talked about it.
So
on
yeah,
there.
he graduated a year before me. So.
I'm
And then
terrified
he
of
went
the
to-
prospect of turning 30.
The biology program, and I went to the biology program, and then we both worked at the same place.
Yeah,
Helena
I always
Laboratories.
forget that you have a biology degree.
We just, me and Elio, man, we just went along together. You know, it's cool.
Parallel lives.
Yeah.
Turning 21 in a few months. I'm excited.
Woo.
Why would you be excited, David?
Well, it's just 21.
Yes, please tell us, David.
Yeah.
well,
on
you
the
know.
church podcast.
No, because it's 21. It's just the
An adult?
yeah, it's just like a
officially?
milestone. That's all.
It is a milestone, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. We should probably wrap up. We've gotten real heavy on this one. Sorry, buddies who thought we were just going to talk about Suicide Squad.
Thank you for hanging in
Again.
there.
Yeah. And like I said, do
we
check
had
out
bats
those articles.
and dinosaurs.
Yeah, there were bats in
Yeah.
there. And just lights,
And
Vegemite, or whatever it was called.
in Afghanistan.
Marfa Lights, the aliens.
No, that was part of
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
And just to wrap it up, ice cream. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love
amen.
ice cream.
Yeah,
Is that
ended there.
somehow related?
We did talk
to-
about ice cream.
I'm just saying that
Just
it's-
now?
Yeah,
The McFlurries.
No, the McFlurries.
Oh, we did. Hey,
Yeah.
we did talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
That's true.
It's all connected.
So like 75% of what we talked about was like really hard hitting stuff in the Bible. Is your tagline going to be like the first quarter only?
yeah.
Like we talk about dinosaurs, ice cream,
He's like
bats.
McFlurries, polygamy,
And then
McFlurries, polygamy, and genocide.
That's going to be the title now. McFlurries and polygamy.
I still find it
abuse.
I still find it
I'm dead
incredible.
serious. I really think I'm going to call it that.
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just
I still find it incredible that somebody came up with a program to ping ice cream making machines at McDonald's. That's
a valuable resource.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I watched like a 45-minute to an hour-long documentary about this, like an investigation.
That's
from
amazing.
A reporter about it.
It was like a whole podcast that I listened to that was specifically just talking about this
mine
company
had, like, all
and
these
how corrupt they
visuals
were.
and stuff, and like you could just like see all the papers all like basically just like this happens, call the guy.
That's amazing.
Call the guy, and the local store owners have to pay the price. McDonald's doesn't. The local store owners do.
Wow.
Right. And so like oftentimes they don't want to pay the really expensive cost that it is for Taylor to come out and fix the machine.
So
whenever it's literally just like the nozzle isn't screwed all the way
McDonald's National has the contract for the ice cream making
they have
machine.
a contract with Taylor, and
but
Taylor,
then
the individual
store has to
because they're McDonald's.
and you have to choose this model. Or,
That's
like there's a
insane.
few selections, but it's all Taylor, and Taylor makes everybody's.
Right.
But like I think like what is it like 50 or something % of Taylor's money comes from these repair services.
It's more. It's the majority of their profit comes from
repair.
So why
repair
would they make
services.
it
most of which is from McDonald's.
Right.
Why would they engineer it better?
Right.
They're making the money.
like even like for the majority of your profit to come from repair services, it's not even like why do you not like obviously they don't have incentive to make it better,
Right.
but obviously like the system was designed to
For that
profit
purpose.
off of
Repairs.
faulty products. Yeah.
Kevin was like so dismissive of like
He was.
a corporate
Yeah.
like, I was like
we have
really
facts and statistics, Kevin.
I don't understand how he was like laziness is the answer. Corporate greed, like systemic issues are real.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We as a nation love our ice cream.
Yes.
Don't mess with us.
To end it off, everybody say their favorite flavor of ice cream.
Cold.
Are we talking about Bluebell?
Did you just say cold?
Yes.
Melted.
That's not
Cold is a temperature.
I'm gonna say a flavor, but
Melted is a
I like
state.
almost all.
hot ice
I
cream.
like.
Oh my
I like
gosh.
almost all ice cream. Cookie dough,
Even
chocolate chip
pistachio.
cookie dough. I like pistachio.
Pistachio?
I go through phases.
Pistachio's good.
But I always pretty much come back
What
to
about
like
coffee ice
vanilla,
cream?
and then maybe I'll add stuff to. I made
Vanilla,
homemade
way to be
cookies and
basic.
cream. It was so good. Or like I'll take
Sounds
vanilla and add like Nesquik like powder mix, and like that's really good.
sounds
So because you could just branch off from vanilla.
Anything with peanut butter or cookie dough in it, or both, is the best.
I'm partial to cookies and cream. I know a lot of people who don't like fruit flavors of ice cream.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big fan. No. I don't mind fruit flavors of ice cream.
alright.
I don't want fruit in my ice cream.
You don't want like actual chunks of fruit.
Yeah, like
Okay.
strawberry ice
Yeah.
cream that has like the chunks of strawberry in
Yeah,
it.
okay, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, it's just
Those are like little boogers in there.
hurt your teeth.
That's what it tastes like. It's like a little flimmy booger.
Interesting.
We had to be done now.
On
On that note, yeah. So long,
Cut it
farewell.
right before that.
Yeah.
So, no, that's it.
Oh,
We're
okay.
done. Yeah,
Goodbye. Read those articles in the description.
and read the
Seriously.
Bible.
Thank you for listening,
Read the
world.
Bible.
Yeah.
Bye.